Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to I can't even speak now, Cliff. I've lost the ability to communicate. Welcome to episode 14 of the Recce Report. With me, your co-host Russ, former Army Warrant Officer.
Yeah, I'm myself, Cliff Purvis, a former Army corporal. It's great to be back on our monthly little show that we do, half hour, where we just talk over the preceding 4 weeks in UK politics. As always, Ross, it's been an incredibly quiet time. I've been,
I know. I don't know where we're going to find any material for this
yeah,
this show, mate. It's like we're living in such a utopia in the UK at the moment. Westminster, a gleaming example of a modern democracy. I don't know what we can find to pick fault with.
well, talking of picking faults with, of course, Nicola got arrested. Was it yesterday?
We did, mate. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't have known about it because, and if there hadn't been like 9,000 screaming unionists on social media proclaiming that it was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and, yeah. I found out she'd been arrested, and almost as quickly found out she'd been again released, as the other two had, without charge.
yeah,
Um, and you're absolutely right. The banshees. Unfortunately, it wasn't just south of the border. These banshees were,
yeah,
there was a few that I reckon were north of the Rio Tweed.
yeah.
But yes, they seemed a little bit deflated when she was released without charge.
And so a direct correlation, mate, between the amount of social media posts when it was announced that the former First Minister had been arrested, to the very few that were posted when she was released without charge 7 hours later.
Yeah.
It's almost like those that posted it had an agenda.
Yes, that's speaking of that.
Mhm.
Yes,
Um,
obviously we've got to tread very carefully here, Russ.
yeah, it's an ongoing investigation, so we can't comment on any aspect of the case, even though we don't think there's much of a case, to be fair. But it detracts, doesn't it? It detracts
Yeah,
from the shenanigans of our lords and masters on the Thames, doesn't it?
it does. Yes, and the sad truth about what's going on with the investigation is it will leave a mark, both on the Scottish National Party, and it will leave a mark on all those that have been arrested and released without charge, regardless of what happens. So I think myself it's going to be a very Pyrrhic victory for or as you mentioned, lords and masters sitting down beside the Thames there, because they're actually showing themselves up if you know we do find out the true root cause of this. They are absolutely destroying any hope at all of keeping the union together.
Yeah, it's the hypocrisy, mate. The Tory MPs, Labour MPs, Lib Dem MPs get arrested all the time and get convicted.
Yeah,
Let's not forget. And suddenly it's hand waved away is not representative of the wider party.
yeah.
But it's again it's that the whole thing with when it comes to independent sporting parties. We have to be cleaner than clean,
Well,
um, and the opposition can get away with anything and everything.
and you know, my thinking behind that, Russ, is that it's the very reason why Independence Live, Caledon Radio, and all the other
Yeah.
independent supporting broadcasters are out there, is because the media, the mainstream media, the MSM, do not give us at least 45% of the shout. Let's go off the last independence vote. We should have a media in Scotland that reflects the 45% that voted for independence, but we don't.
No,
If you listen to the mainstream media, you would think that there was no liking at all for independence north of the Rio Tweed. But we're here and we're doing what we do, and we will do what we can to make life uncomfortable for Westminster, because they damn well deserve it.
We will continue to point out the hypocrisy. We talk about lords and masters because Boris has just created a whole new load of lords and masters, hasn't he?
Yeah. This is a guy that has run away from every single responsibility he's ever been put to. If the spotlight's turning on him and it looks like responsibility for whatever the actions he's done, he's run away from it. I mentioned, I'm sure, on the show many months ago, in my humble opinion, that man is a coward.
Yeah. He couldn't even resign gracefully. His resignation speech was all about big boys did it and ran away. Yeah. He will not accept responsibility for anything. And as we said prior to the broadcast, it's very much the Trump playbook as well. Is that he's not done anything wrong.
Yeah.
But the tide is turning. Trump's been indicted. Hopefully, Boris will be held to account at some point. Although whether there's a political will to do that in this country, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that is a very good point there. I mean, how much would the Westminster gang want to turn the spotlight on the goings on within Westminster? Because when Boris was standing at that dispatch box lying to Parliament, and forget Parliament, he was lying to the 4 countries that make up the UK. So he was lying to every single voter and their families in the UK. Because remember, whether we voted Conservative and Unionist or not, he was the Prime Minister representing us. And he knew what was going on, as did his cabinet. And most of those cabinet are still in, especially the current Prime Minister. So how much they will want to turn that spotlight on Johnson or just let him drift off. But Johnson is such an egotistic. Oh, I was nearly swearing there. I apologise to everybody out there for nearly swearing. It shouldn't be happening.
And the thing is, he'll go back and was he not complaining a little while ago that being Prime Minister wasn't lucrative enough? However, the 100 and whatever grand they get paid for being Prime Minister wasn't enough for him, because he was making way more money peddling his bile on the various newspapers that would pay him to do it.
Yeah, and he's now joined in on the after dinner speaking as well. Yeah. He jets over to the US and gangs up with the fascists across there, and once they have their good old boys meal, he'll stand up and he'll spout off his rhetoric, which they all lap up.
Yeah, and not only has he not gone quietly, he's managed to carpet bomb the House of Lords as well, and nominate loads of people for awards. Don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy that the House of Commons hairdresser is being recognised. I think hats off. I think that's real public service. Anyone that's had to deal with Boris Johnson's hairdo probably deserves more than a medal.
Sorry, I just couldn't imagine myself getting that close to Johnson. Yeah, they just make my skin crawl. They really would. Yes, he has. And who's it? Patel has been made a dame.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I mean, she really started the ball rolling as far as the sort of the fascist approach to migration, immigration, and asylum seekers was going on. And remember, she ordered under her direct orders. They went in for that dawn rain in Glasgow, and then the street turned around and went, "No, you're not going anywhere."
No, I'm not. And speaking of which, we've seen in the paper the other day, didn't we, that they're about to all those Afghan refugees that we took in, the people that helped and supported us during our time there, are going to be made bloody homeless.
Yep, all because the Home Office has not moved on with getting these people rehoused. The hotels are wanting to go back to being hotels, as lucrative as a government contract would be, and I would imagine they would have been getting good money for it. Yeah, so all these poor souls that we said we would look after, it was hand of friendship we were extending to
Yeah,
those
yeah.
that were our allies. And this, it probably comes as no surprise to anybody that's read history. And I've been playing catch up on that during this independence campaign. That we always turn our back on these type of people. Even from my days out in Bosnia, the interpreters were not getting repatriated back to the UK. And as a result, they were targets. And one particular one, I know for a fact, did end up getting shot. But that's the UK. I mean, that's how they treat people. They've always treated people this manner.
Expendable, dispensable.
Yep.
That's the whole point of certainly the Tory Westminster. It's all about, it's the bottom line, isn't it? It's about money. The biggest resource, one of the biggest resources was the people of Afghanistan, the people that helped us out. The second biggest resource, obviously, was the oil, but that's we don't talk about that.
No.
And he just leaves them behind, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a whole Hollywood movie at the moment about this, about looking after your interpreter.
Yeah. Yeah. And just seen one of the comics coming up there from Helen.
Yeah.
They tried it with the Gurkhas as well.
They did. Joanna Lumley for God's sake, when you've got to rely on Joanna Lumley to fight your corner. Bless her. But it was terrible, the terms and conditions. But that was something that was signed up to, probably over a century ago, regards to the tripartite agreement between Britain, Nepal, and India about where the Gurkhas would serve. And it was supposedly that the British Gurkhas weren't supposed to get paid more than the Indian Gurkhas.
Right.
And obviously, Indian Gurkhas got paid terribly.
Yeah.
But
it would have been an agreement lapped up by the UK government of the day, because at that stage, especially with the establishment of India, and at the time East Pakistan, West Pakistan, later East Pakistan going on to be Bangladesh, with the establishment of those countries.
And I'd also point out the hypocrisy of the UK, adhering to the agreements that they agree with.
Yes.
and completely ignoring the ones that they don't.
Yes, if it's in any way saving the money. I believe Joanna Lumley got involved because her father was a Gurkha officer.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
But you're absolutely right. And, I like a lot of the work Joanna Lumley does, travel shows and stuff like that. But you're absolutely right. There should have been people in uniform or just out of uniform pushing for the Gurkhas. Having worked with the Gurkhas, my last job was with the Gurkhas out in Kenya. Fantastic group of people, really, really good.
We took over from them in Afghanistan, which is not a nice thing to do, because during my army career I've always had one adage, which is always take over from somebody who's worse than you, and clearly, because you can only shine then, but taking over from the Gurkhas was a nightmare because they were brilliant. There's only one way for me to go from there, which is down.
Yeah, their standard of professionalism did. A few people were thinking, "Ooh, they're good."
Yeah, take over from the Kingos or someone like that, mate. Not the Gurkhas. They're not hiding in nothing. I know I digress, but what always made me the weird thing was that the Gurkhas did the winter tour in Afghanistan, right? And then I went out with the Geordies and they did the summer tour, and I'm like, surely somebody's missed a trick there, isn't it?
What I mean? It really should have been the other way around. The Gurkhas were still at Goose Green when we went there. When we were taking over, we took over from the Gurkhas at Goose Green, and they didn't look too happy in those trenches with the weather there.
I know. The cold. Top guys, and and it's the story of there's greatest respect I have for the Gurkhas and the people that helped us out in Afghanistan. They were seen as expendable by the Westminster overlords, which is a great shame.
It always comes back to that. Every single agreement they've had. Was it the film Wild Geese? That was a bit. Never seen that, right? Is it a
I've seen it. I know Roger Moore was in it.
Yeah, absolutely, and a lot of famous actors were in it. It was basically about a group of mercenaries sent out to a country in Africa to rescue someone so that they could install them as a British government puppet in that country. And of course, the agreement was signed with just as they rescued this guy. An agreement was signed with the current government in that country in Britain. Yeah, so they left the mercenaries. They just hung them out to dry. And that, although a totally fictional story, is exactly, in my opinion, how our UK government operates.
I don't know, mate. If Mark Thatcher had popped up, it would have been a proper realistic movie then, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, again, the only thing that got in the way of Mark Thatcher getting rescued back in '82 was the Falklands conflict. If the bio, ladies and gentlemen, at some stage, I think I might get photobombed by my grandcat.
No, that's fine.
She's on the move again.
We're all for the therapy pets, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yes. So Johnson, Trump.
Yeah.
You can't put a cigarette paper between the two of them. The way they're crying into their millions. Seen Trump trying to get some more money the other day.
And the thing is, we're all looking for. I think we're all looking for absolution. We're looking for Trump to get sent down. We're looking for Boris to be held accountable. And the truth is, that's probably unlikely to happen. Even if Trump, even if it gets to trial, even if it gets past the Trump-appointed judge that's going to oversee the trial, he's only going to get a smack on the wrist and probably a fine and probation or whatever, which is a great shame. It'd be nice just once to see just desserts being served.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be happening, though, is it? Again, the people that represent these people in court are very, very slick and know how to. They know what they're about, and there'll be backroom deals done to keep them out. And certainly, Johnson will never see the inside of a prison cell.
We can but hope. We can dream.
Yeah, it's no. I'm afraid the only thing that will save Scotland is, and here she comes. She's just off camera there. The only thing that will save Scotland is for us to get our independence.
Yeah.
If we have to get, we have to get.
We do.
And we have to keep. We have to keep plugging away at what we do, Russ. There are fantastic people out there doing a great job on a big scale, but we need to help them, and that's where me and you come in, Bud, when we do our monthly show. It's when lots and lots of other people do their little shows as well, because it all adds to the collective good of what we're about here.
It is, and it's to be equally angry at things like the deposit return scheme. We've talked about this before. The fact that's been kiboshed by Westminster because apparently it needs to be a UK-wide scheme. Now, Scotland has always had a separate legal system. So, Scots law has always been independent. I use that term advisedly. And I don't know about you, but was I having some sort of hallucination when I was taking my ginger bottles back to the shop, mate, in the 70s and 80s?
Nope, you were definitely doing that because I was doing similar.
Definitely doing that, wasn't I? And the problem is that we can't let this happen. And I said this before, regardless of what your views were on the whole gender recognition bill, rightly, whichever side of the fence you sat on that, the fact that Westminster said no, we're gonna veto that should have made everyone angry.
Yes.
Because the truth is, if you sat back and let that happen just because you agreed with that decision, then you don't really believe in the democratic will of Scotland.
Yeah.
Because to support democracy in an independent Scotland means you have to support us making your own decisions.
Yes,
even if those decisions are wrong.
absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with you there,
Because
Russ.
that's the whole point of being independent. We
Yeah,
make decisions rightly or wrongly and judge by them.
yeah.
So to sit back and think, yeah, that's good that Westminster did that. No, it wasn't.
No,
I don't care what your views are on any of these bills. The fact that Westminster decided to say no should make everyone angry.
yep. Yes, it certainly made me angry because I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
It's like you're enabling them to come back again. They
yeah,
start on one thing and they'll come back again, come back
yeah,
again, and they'll keep chipping away at everything they see as not part of them.
yeah.
They will block.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
precedent was set, and as I say, Scotland's always had a separate legal system. And I wonder, are they going to start chipping away at that, at the
yeah.
things that are slightly different?
They of course they will. They will
Yeah,
do apps. They will what they want without a shadow of doubt. They want to hollow out
yeah.
Holyrood.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
They want it to make it so hamstrung as to be
Mhm.
completely worthless. They make it
Well,
completely
yeah,
worthless. Support for it falls. You don't get the people voting.
mm,
Then they can turn around and say it's a failed experiment. We're
yeah.
now imposing direct rule. And
That,
when they come round to doing direct rule,
yeah.
um, it will be sorry the cat. It
Well,
will
no,
it'll be
it is.
far too late
You're right,
for us then.
but that's the Tory. That's the way Tory do things.
Yeah,
That's how they managed to sell off British Gas and the steelworks, and everything like that. Is they underfund it, they don't support it, they make sure that it doesn't work, then they flog it off to their mates.
yeah,
And the problem is, the SNP got in '97 by some mathematical wizardry, which was never supposed to happen. And then they did the one thing that no one expected them to do, was they actually governed quite well.
yes. They governed on behalf of Scotland for
Yeah,
Scotland,
yeah,
and they didn't have to listen
yeah,
to anybody down in London.
yeah. And people are forgetting what it was like. Um, when the Scottish Parliament set up from 1999 to 2007, when we had the Labour Lib Dem coalition.
Yep.
And it wasn't. They weren't particularly bad. They just didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. They rubber stamped everything coming up from the
Yeah,
south. Didn't they
yeah.
actually end up sending some of the budget back?
I've heard that apparently Jack McConnell sent a shed load of millions back to Westminster. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was overturned after a hullabaloo, but that was certainly the thing.
Yeah.
It got to the end of the year. We got an underspend. Here you go, have it back, which was
Yeah.
ludicrous.
Absolutely scandalous. Because obviously then that affects the following year. But that's the type of thing it was, and it was just this will keep them quiet. But as you're right, the Scottish National Party, whether by themselves or in coalition with Scottish Greens, have been governing well. Have they made mistakes? Of course, they've made mistakes, but all governments do. Yeah,
Yeah,
and once somebody's in power, it's so easy to sit back and say, "Well, I do it slightly differently."
yeah.
But they're doing a damn good job considering they don't have control over
You're
absolutely
right.
everything.
And I think Hash has made a good comment there that they're going to use the Scotland Act to use the UK Internal Market Act, which is the new thing, to diminish the devolved Parliament. So it's outside of the Scotland Act. It's the Internal Market Act to say, yeah, we can do this because we're not in the EU anymore. We need to have an internal market, and that is, yeah. I think maybe you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, Hash. Right, that it'll be used as an attack. And
Yep.
the problem as we see it is that there's no coherent opposition in Westminster against things like this. Keir Starmer's come out and said, yeah, we're voting for Brexit, we need to get on with it, which is ridiculous when probably more people in the UK now would vote to go back into the EU. And not one party, not one of the mainstream parties in wider UK support that, other than probably the SNP and the Greens.
Yeah, and again, we were sold. It was the media.
Yeah,
And if anybody from mainstream media is listening into this tonight, and you think that I'm having a dig at you, I am, because you enabled Brexit.
Oh yeah,
You
it was
allowed the
really
lags.
was. Nigel Farage, a regular attender on all some people that never had an MP, had some MEPs because of the vagaries of proportional representation, and was just trotted out time and time and time again. And it's still happening. He's still doing it. He was
Yeah.
on Laura Kuenssberg the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Why?
He's failed at every attempt. Yeah, as you said, he got an MEP because of proportional representation. But any other attempt he's made, he has failed miserably. Again, this is why we need a complete overhaul with our democratic system. I mean, let's face it, we do not live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional monarchy that practices some democratic practices. All right, democracy. Look to France. Look to the US. That is democracy.
Well, they're trying to push through by use of statutory instrument this the bit in the bill against public protest.
Yes,
because it's already been rejected, so they're trying to do it through the back door in that respect.
Yeah, was it suspicion of causing?
Suspicion of causing a disturbance. What?
Yeah, that means you can get lifted anytime.
Yeah. You're that's gone back to the 1970s, isn't it? You look a bit dodgy, mate.
Yeah,
watch you don't fall down the station steps.
It's absolutely crazy. Russ, we have gone totally off track and we've got 3 minutes to recover things.
We can do that, mate. We can do a lot in 3 minutes.
Yes.
So I've been told.
Yeah, well, I've seen that on Doctor Who, actually. Right, yes. So the peerages, we've had a chat about the deposit return scheme getting scuppered. Did we mention that?
Yeah, we did, mate. Yeah. We did. I had a bit of a rant about that, mate. I'm surprised you missed it.
No, sorry, I was getting photobombed by the cat at this stage. Right, so I've got me news feed just popping up here. They still think that Sunak will block Boris Johnson's comeback as a Tory MP. Really?
Do you think he'll come back? I don't think he'll come back.
Ego.
I think he'll come back because they're already facing 3 by-elections, aren't they? Because of the Tories that resigned in a huff because they either didn't get on the honours list or their names were removed for proprietary reasons.
Yeah.
Nadine Dorris, mention no names. Scary nads.
She is one of the scary. Well, no, she is. She's any group of very scary people that operate within UK politics at the moment. And I honestly, I do not make any apologies at all for calling them fascists, because they are fascists. And we mentioned this on our last show about the creeping fascism. But yeah, it's a scary moment in UK politics that we live through.
I'm worried because every time we do this show, I think this can't continue. It can't get any worse. And then every month we make the same joke that it's been quiet, but it's been horrendous again. Yeah, it's like they up the scales. I'm like, you can't get any worse. And some Tory politicians like, challenge accepted.
Yeah, hold my coat. I'll be back in a second.
Michael Fabricant got an award, didn't he? Well, he was on the honours list. What, for best hairpiece? And why does everyone pretend that's not a wig?
Yeah, it's again, it's the way they operate down there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It really is. Anyway, get my blood pressure down. Come on.
Yeah, I've got my monitor here if you need a monitor. Right, old chap. Kevin will be pulling his hair out.
We're out of time, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. You can always catch up again on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook page or on the Independence Live webpage. We're always there. Thank you so much for the honour of being able to speak to you through this medium. I really do appreciate it. We shall see you in a month, second Monday of the month, whenever that will be. Don't make me do sums.
No. I'll just echo what Russ said there. It's always a pleasure getting a chance to air my views and listen to Russ Aaron has, and have you guys listen in and comment as well. Let's keep chipping away at this, folks. Remember, our future is bright. Independence is right.
Here. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye now.
Cheers, guys.